Karin Bengtsson, one of the great minds behind this whole idea, and the reason we are all here today. Karin is a thought leader on the innovation scene in Sweden, and she will now tell you more about Ignite Public and our journey so far. So take it away, Karin.
Thank you, Marit. Let's see if we can get the technology to work with us. Yes, hello everybody and welcome. Great to have you with us. It's really exciting to do this in English. This is actually the third year that we do a workshop like this. And it's also the third year that we have had this initiative that we call Ignite Public, part of the Ignite program. And I think that shows a little bit how this has expanded and how many new actors we have brought in. So I just want to start basically from the beginning, why we started this initiative now a little bit more than 2 years ago. We really wanted to look and see how we can create new businesses while solving societal challenges. Looking at it from an Ignite perspective, and I'll get into Ignite in a minute, but to see how we can create new business for the fantastic startups that we have in Sweden, and at the same time also find new ways to help public sectors solve challenges that they stand in for. For those of you who are not familiar with Ignite Sweden, this whole day is an excellent opportunity to familiarize yourselves with Ignite as a concept and as a program. But Ignite Sweden is a national project in Sweden, partly financed by our innovation agency, Vinnova, and a number of Swedish incubators since 2017. The aim of the program is to create new business for startups by matching them with the corporates initially, but also since 2 years ago, also with the public sector. It's a non-profit organization or program funded by 5 of Sweden's top incubators that you can see in sort of pink on the map of Sweden, for those of you who are not so familiar with our geography. But today we have a national cover through close collaboration with 27 incubator and science park. And Kista Science City is one of these science parks that work very closely with Ignite and has incorporated Ignite as a key tool for how we work with our partners and owners in the science park. When we started this program, we had our eyes set on this number. 68 billion euros is the yearly disbursement for public procurement in Sweden. And we thought, what about if a fraction of that could go to create a new market or good reference cases for the startups that we have in Sweden. We had seen that Ignite had worked very successfully with corporates, and we wanted to try out and see if this methodology could also work for the public sector. And as a science park, we are publicly funded. We are owned by the region of Stockholm and the city of Stockholm. And we were looking for tools, how to create value to our owners and funders, and at the same time, create new business and partnerships for the startups and scale-ups that are in our network. So this was really looking for a win-win situation. But when we started the discussions, we saw that there was not only positive vibes, that there was many people from both the public sector side and the startup side that were a little bit hesitant about collaborating. We saw that from the public sector, many said that we have our standards or the way that we work with procurement, and we are very afraid to work with startups. They are so small and they cannot perhaps deliver on what we need. And we also saw that many startups, while seeing that there was a potentially very interesting market, were also afraid of going into procurement issues or working with the public sector as a very slow sector. But I think what we have proven, and we will get into that later on, is that this doesn't have to be the case, that working with the public sector can be fast, and that there are great ways to work also with procurement to drive innovation in the public sector. We worked with the why. Why did we start Ignite Public? Where we saw that we need a new solution for the public sector's challenges. We know that the public sector in Sweden, as in other countries, need to do more with less resources as we move forward. We also knew that it would be a good way for the public sector to find new innovations and increase their innovative capacity by working with startups in the same way that we had seen in the corporate sector. And of course, broadening the market for startups, as we know that, at least in Sweden, and I'm sure so is the case in many of the countries that we have here with us today, that if you succeed in working with one public sector company or one municipality, you have tremendous opportunities to scale, as they tend to benchmark and learn from each other, and that the markets are very much similar. How we have done this, I'll get into detail, but really the key here, I think, is that we work from real operational needs. We've provided support for both the startups and the public sector throughout the process. And we have used Ignite and the incubators and science parks that make up Ignite as a national platform to find the best startups that really fits the needs that we have seen in the public sector. Ignite is working, and we've done so in the public part of Ignite through a process which has 5 steps: mobilize, look at the needs, match, make a pilot, and evaluate. I would say that from the very onset of this project, we've spent most time in the mobilize part. This is really where we have seen that if you do this well, if you get top management on board, if you make sure that the funding is there, the rest of the process can go, and some of you may agree with me and some not, fairly smooth if you have done this well, and if you put effort into mobilizing and finding the right actors. And if you find the right actors, this is also where we go into the next step, which I think is the key of the success that we've seen in the project, and that is to make the needs analysis. Here we have worked with the operational units that the management have suggested to us. Operational units that have the need to innovate, that has challenges that they are not sure how to solve, that perhaps stand in for a larger procurement that they will do in 1 or 2 years' time, and they want to think new. So here we've worked, and Marit will get into more on that a little bit later, very much with workshops and analyses to find out what are the core needs that they need solving. In the beginning, when we started the project and the needs analysis, we often got the answer, we need an app. And I think here we have worked a lot trying to broaden up and broaden the perspective on what your needs really are. What is it that you're looking for? Why do you need that app? What is the real need that this app would solve it for you to bring it up a level? And this is really to broaden the perspectives that will get them into the next phase, which is matching. where we have matched the needs that the operational units have brought forward with a number of startups using Ignite's matching methodology that some of you will also be part of tomorrow, I think, where there will be a big matchmaking between corporates, public sector, and startups. And then they've gone into a pilot phase, and of course, after that, we support in the evaluation of the pilots, looking at what has been successful, what have we learned, can we scale this, do we want to scale this, was it a success or not, and why? Throughout the process, we've learned that the team is really key. And as I said from the beginning, we've seen that having top management buy-in from management is really, really crucial, so that the people in the operational unit that we have worked closely with have the mandate to actually go ahead and feel that they can do this and run all the way from the needs analysis to the actual pilot. When we've entered this, we've made sure that the management team also set aside budget from the very beginning to make sure that we can actually move ahead and do pilots. We've also seen that it's crucial to have IT as part of the project team, as most of the pilots that we have started are connected to IT. So making sure that your IT team is there. And of course, also to make sure that procurement is on board from the very beginning. When we started the project, we saw that in some of the municipalities or the public companies that we started working with, procurement was perhaps not used to being brought on board so early. So we brought them in already in the needs assessment. And I think this has led to a very keen group of procurement specialists in some of these municipalities and public companies that are really seeing their role as driving innovation as well, and not just being an afterthought in the end, but actually being there from the very beginning. And some of them have actually also participated in the matchmaking meetings and been a really key stakeholder throughout the project process. And of course, then we've had someone from the Ignite team being there to do the needs assessment, to be part of the matchmaking and guiding them throughout the process. I did not know that it would go like this, but let's see. It's a bit of a firework version. So we started the project, well, a little bit, well, almost 2 years ago. And since then, we've managed to have 212 meetings between the public sector and startups. I think that is a really great number that we're very proud of, to see that many meetings have taken place, and that actually 35% of them are now in the process of following up, where they are looking into the possibilities of taking it further, where they are perhaps having their second meetings with their startups. And that 10% of them have already gone into a pilot phase. So they've already initiated pilots. And of course, we hope and see that a number of these 35% will also, of course, go into pilots as well. So that is statistics that we're really proud of and think shows that there is a big interest from both the corporate or from the startup side and the public side, and keeping in mind that we have worked with 5 public organizations and a bit more public companies as well. So they've managed to have a lot of meetings. So what have we learned in these 2 years? Well, we've learned that the initial issue that we thought of, that the public sector would be slow, is not necessarily true. We've seen that if they have the mandate and the interest, it can actually be really fast. And I think, Marit would have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we have a runner-up for the fastest, what do you say, the fastest time moving from meeting with a startup to a pilot here in Kista, actually, and Stockholm Stad.
It's actually two.
Yeah.
2 projects in one go in a very short amount of time. So yes, well done, Kista.
Yes, so if the fit is right, we think that the public sector can be just as fast as the corporate sector, if not faster, if the mandate and everything is in place. We've also seen that with the organizations that we work, they've taken on this as a long-term committed and really integrated Ignite and the way we worked as part of their innovation strategy, and not just seen this as a short pilot project. We see that they are really internalizing this process and are also learning to use the needs analysis on their own. And we've seen that even though they may not have found the perfect match, some of them, they are still really positive about the learning experience, both from looking at their own needs in a new way, but also learning from the meetings with startups. We've seen that the key here has really been to work demand-driven and bottom-up. We've worked very closely with the people in the organization that has the actual needs. And I think this has been the key in the pilot that we mentioned here in Kista, for example. It's been the unit managers that have engaged in the process, and they are really the ones that know their needs, and therefore when the match is right, they know that this is exactly what they need to come further in their organization and in what they do. As I said earlier, to include IT and procurement early has been also a key learning. And we worked a lot with procurement, and we brought out a small pamphlet, template, guidebook for how you can include procurement in this kind of processes to make sure that everybody in the organization, the procurement specialists, but also the team, feel secure and feel that procurement has been thought of and is not an afterthought. And also, I think, to make the procurement specialists keen champions of the project and of the process, and to put them at the front and say that they have a really important role in driving innovation in their organizations. And also, of course, when we started the project, there was a lot of discussions about what is a pilot. We realized that when we worked with startups, and I think we will learn a little bit more about that later on in this session as well, but they may have seen pilots as something very small and very fast. And when we said pilot project to the public sector, they thought about something that would cost 2 million Swedish krona and would last for 2 years. But I think in this group of public organizations that we worked with, we've seen that working with small scale pilots and doing short tests is a really good way to try out and test both if the startup and if you're a good fit, but also to learn in the organization. And if you do that with small pilots, you can also learn fast. I think that was all for me as an introduction to the project and what we have done. maybe we take a few questions after Marit's presentations and to both of us. So I would like to hand over to my colleague Marit, who introduced us so nicely in the beginning. Marit has been a key person in taking the project from a small pilot that we started 2 years ago to what it is today, and has also made sure that we are now set to scale the project. And also I think that the corporate sector is now looking at what has been done with the public sector to learn from that. So with that, I'll give the floor to you, Marit.
Thank you. Can I just say that this is a picture from Leksand? So that's in the middle of Sweden, and we are working our way up north when we come to Tomas in a bit. So if you stop sharing, I will start sharing my screen. So, perfect. Like Karin said, during the last couple of years, we've been in close dialogue with municipalities, public organizations, public companies. And we'll talk a little bit about the challenges that they are facing. But before we do that, I want to share 2 quotes with you. This is the first one. Does anyone want to read out what it says? Anyone?
Intelligent is the ability to adapt to change.
Yes,
That's
perfect.
correct.
That is correct. So our ability to adapt is crucial moving forward, and to find more flexible and agile ways of working. We can test and experiment in small scale to understand what works, what doesn't work. So we test and we learn, and we can test several different aspects in a short amount of time to a reasonably low investment. And that's also one of the processes that we try to integrate into the process when we work with public sector. The other quote I want to share with you is this. I know Karin emphasized in the beginning how important the need or the challenge or the problem is. And we are often so eager to move forward to find a solution that we say, like Karin said, oh, we need an app. But we encourage you to spend more time understanding the underlying challenge or problem, because the more we understand, the better the solution will be. So we spend a lot of time in the needs assessment, understanding the challenges or problems. And if we look at the problems we are seeing, we categorize them into 3 areas: social, environmental, and economic sustainability. So I will just give you a quick overview now. So I won't go through all of them in details, it would take too long. But if we look at social sustainability, we see challenges more related to how we as people interact. So it can be inclusion and equality, feeling safe, the interaction with and between citizens. If we look at communication as an example, almost everyone we talk to experience some kind of challenge around communication with citizens or customers, or how to get engagement and interaction. And it can be to understand the needs of your citizens, to develop a better dialogue with them, or to just interact and get feedback. It's kind of a new kind of customer service. It can also be about participation or engagement or cooperation with citizens or other municipalities or with businesses. And that all of that communication is done in an inclusive way. We also see needs in security and safety, healthcare and wellness, inclusion, integration, and equality. So if we move on to environmental sustainability, we see challenges in circularity, smart cities, clean air and water, energy effectiveness, and also need to measure and visualize the business or the operations. So let's look a little more in detail on energy effectiveness. Most of the organizations we are in contact with are interested in projects related to how to reduce the footprint and also in circular flows or sharing services. It can be about reduced energy or water consumption, measuring or visualizing the consumption, but also to find new sustainable energy sources or produce own electricity or solutions for storing energy. We can also look at measure and visualize. It speaks a little bit for itself. So if we go to the last one, economic sustainability. Digitalization is a big demand we see. So it can be about collecting data from different sources, visualizing something. With the corona, we have seen a big need of digital activities. It can be new forms of meetings, but it can also be new services. How do the library access its customers? Or how do we make the museum offering available if people can't come to the museum? It can also be about mapping flows of people or how they move inside the building or outside in the city. Or just in general, digital tools as a natural part of the business. Something that often comes up too is business development or new methods. So analyze our operations, maybe move data from one system to another. So automating our internal flows. It could be how to handle our invoices or how to pull data out of one system, have it automatically completed into another system, or streamlining our internal processes. So that's, in short, some of the needs that we have seen in the public sector. So if there are any questions for me or for Karin, maybe we can take a couple of questions now. Otherwise, we will move on. Oh, it's crystal clear.
There's also opportunities in the end if you've won that by then.
Perfect. So then we will move on to introduce Tomas Blomquist. Very proud to have you with us, Tomas. Tomas is a professor at Umeå University since many years. And for those of you who don't know where Umeå is, it's even further north than Leksand. It's located very far up in Sweden. And apart from the northern lights, which we so beautifully see in this picture, that could have been Tomas because it is Umeå, but I don't think it is. But there's also a lot of innovation going on in Umeå. Tomas and his team are following Ignite to understand how Ignite creates value. So Tomas, I feel I see more of you these days than some of my colleagues. A warm welcome to you.
Yes, I should try to switch screens. Let's see. Good, thank you, Marit, and thank you, Ignite, for the possibility. We and my team have followed Ignite for some time. We have followed all of the processes before the innovation days, and I have the opportunity to follow Ignite Public for some time, and the work that Karin and Fredrik and Marit have well done. It's have been really interesting, and I think they are doing really well. And how could we create value for the public sector and startups? How could Ignite do that? I think we a little bit that the same as Marit was saying, we need to look at needs, and we can find many needs here. We have needs to change that are internally driven to improve processes, products, and services, also within the public sector. We have external challenges, just to mention one, the sustainability development goals that are coming in as needs that we also meet when we are meeting public sector organizations, large organizations, and startups. Systems and products and services are getting more and more complex, and with that, we need to have fine competences outside our organization. It will take too long time if we should develop everything ourselves. So we need to collaborate. The organizations that I will mention, or the group of organizations I will mention, are the large organizations that we can see as public organizations or firms, the startups or Ignite Sweden. I will mention some company names later. For all of them, I have a consent to mention the names. Otherwise, I never reveal the organization that we are working with. And some of the challenges that we see for the large organizations is problems to make needs analysis, involve people so they really have those needs. Finding and sorting out startups is time consuming. You're not used to work with them, and if they're knocking on the door, who should you trust? And how should we deal with public procurement and all of these internal processes at a large organization? On the other hand, when you see it from the startup side, they have sometimes a little bit hard to understand the needs because they are so into their pitch or their business model that they are trying to develop. And it's also hard to find people in that large organization. Who should you contact at the large public organization to describe and tell them about your fantastic innovation? They are seeing public organizations as slow, bureaucratic, and maybe not as attractive as the first choice to be partnering up with, and also the demands for public procurement. If we instead look at Ignite would be this type of intermediary, and they have also challenges to find organizations that are willing to work with them. So as Karin was saying, that the process of initiating, building trust, that both the large and the startup will try to trust them. And what I see is also the capacity to understand needs. It is important, and to be creative in matching needs and solutions. So doing the matching. So this intermediate role is important for organizations like Ignite. Ignite Sweden, having this middleman role between the large organization and startups. And I think in the case of Sweden, also as Karin was showing when she was showing the map, is that they are going beyond the local business incubator. It goes beyond the regional ecosystem. So that the business incubators are helping to promote the startups across Sweden, and with Swedish innovation, they're doing it actually across the globe. So French startups are able to meet US companies. It's a structured process of engaging large organizations, finding needs and challenges, suggesting startups to be matched, preparing startups, preparing them for the matchmaking, and following up the meetings. At the matchmaking meeting, I think you can see, since we are following so many of the meetings, that startups and corporates that have an aim with the meeting seems to be a little bit more successful. It's not just a pitch that the startups are normally used to. They have to be able to listen from both sides to find out needs and express their needs and challenges, and to be open for a surprise, because that's the thing, to be open to surprise, to be able to listen what could be coming and what happened, and if it's interesting, suggesting a meeting with that startup. So that little meeting is crucial, but also the work beforehand and after. Coming into what we love at the university is to classify things and group them. We made this 2x2 matrix, looking on some of the cases that had been at Ignite. So the corporates or the public organization, they have both existing problems and new problems. The startup have existing solutions and new solutions. And so sometimes it could use existing solutions and match them with existing problems. So just going through those 4 quickly. One example of an existing problem, existing solution, were the matchmaking between Uppsala Municipality and Parametrics, where they were using an existing solution for an existing problem. I think this is also an example of a very, very quick going from the meeting to a pilot. So the public organizations are often very quick. A totally other way, and also a really interesting example, is of integrating a new solution in an existing product, an existing problem that Alfa Laval have, and when they were working with Econom. Alfa Laval is also really interesting on how they were experimenting when they were developing the solution. The third one of rerouting universes, ABB and Synaleap. So at the first matchmaking meeting, Synaleap, we're meeting universe, and then they will think, okay, maybe this will be good for this part of ABB. Universes aimed, I see it as a gaming company that are interesting in navigation in 3D. They are not interested in minings, but they were really routing their existing business to something totally different compared to the gaming that they were at the first. So by being able to listen and understand each other's needs, they are coming up to a really nice solution. The third one that is also really interesting is Core. Core is a large facility management company in the northern countries. And they have a couple of meetings with SpotScale. The first one didn't fly. Spot Scale is making products of a drone when they have a camera, making 3D modules. But after meeting up with Fleer, they were able to create a solution that is actually on as a selling product. So they were creating a totally new product after understanding the needs and the possibilities. So you can group startups and corporates, and I think it's often this matchmaking meetings and the capability that Ignite have to both do the assessment of the needs, but also to understand and know what the startups are able to do and what they are good, and then be very creative on matching them. So trying to sum up, Ignite creates value for public, and what I can see, public sector is really, really innovative and on their toes to change. Ignite creates possibility for these matchmaking meetings. They are sorting out and they're matching. And for me, this going beyond the regional ecosystem is really important. Other things that we are seeing when we are both doing the pre-work beforehand and after the matchmaking is that you have been able to engage problem owners, that you are working with real problems. It's not just doing this for the sake of being innovating or nice. It should be on real problems and real relevant problems. Finding out your needs and challenges is something that the large companies need to work with. Challenge you to meet startups, innovative startups. They will be able to solve some of the challenges that you have, and see the meeting, that little activity, as a really good opportunity for large and public organizations. And I think when after my little talk here, we will have Vanessa. There's also, I see Vanessa and her organization also like this intermediate organization that connects different public housing companies. I don't know if that's my view is right here, but they are also connecting different municipalities working together. So I'm done for now, and then I wait for the Q&As.
Perfect, Tomas. Thank you for that. A year ago on Sweden Innovation Days, so this day, Vanessa was part of the audience. She was curious about Ignite Public, just like all of you. And 1 year later, a lot has happened, and today she's here to share her experience on how startup collaboration can help speed up the digital transformation of the public housing sector. She's a real example of the speed of Ignite Public. And we've said it before, but we often hear the public sector is slow, but I think we will prove that wrong together. So welcome, Vanessa.
Thank you so much, Marit, and thank you for the talks so far. I think they've been really relevant from the perspective of public housing, which I will get into now. I'm just going to work out this sharing so that I see my manuscript at the same time. So give me a second. Marit, I don't know if there's a question or something in the chat for the time being.
Well, maybe if anyone has a question so far on the presentations, then feel free to ask them.
Yeah, I added in the chat a link to that paper that I and Medheini and Suyit wrote. So if you'd like to see more about that 2x2 matrix, it's an easy read.
Perfect.
Okay, how are we doing? Are you seeing the presentation?
Yes.
Wonderful. Right. Well, thank you so much, Thomas, for the nice bridge over to my talk. And I got the idea from your presentation that in our case, we were like a double intermediary, really, Ignite and Digitaliseringsinitiativet, which I work for. And like Marit said, the first matchmaking, as I see it, was actually at the last Innovation Day conference. I mean, it was a total no-brainer. I thought Ignite Public was the perfect match, perfect partner for us. Before I get into why, what we've done and so on, just a few words on who we are, of course. So the Swedish Public Housing organization, it's a member organization for Sweden's plus 300 municipality-owned public housing companies. So that makes every seventh Swede actually lives in a Swedish public housing apartment or rental. And by law, we should offer good housing for all. That's the mission. And a few years ago, we started the Digitaliseringsinitiativet, really long name for this project. So 100 of these companies joined forces to accelerate their digitalization. And I'm one of 3 project leaders at the initiative who work over a 3-year period with these 100 companies. And it's great fun. So why was this a perfect match for us? Well, we knew from the start, from the initiative, that we wanted to bring the public housing companies into the ecosystem. We want them to be an active part and contribute to the ecosystem. Our values give us a responsibility to contribute, but we also need the new services, new technology, business models to be able to provide the services that our tenants expect today and also tomorrow. So we also see that we can contribute with the needs and stimulate development. So this is really important for us. And the housing companies I worked with were very, very clear on the matter. We want to collaborate. We need to meet startups, help us to get out there. In the public housing sector, there are a lot of initiatives, a lot of pilots going on, but the challenge is that very few, or not enough, should I say, are implemented on scale. So I was really interested to look into how Ignite's capacity and the startups could help us leverage this process. And this is the process. As you see, we put a lot of work in it. Marit, not in the least. And the quotes show you that we had a really smooth and a high energy process, actually. I mean, if we had tough quotes, I would have put them in there, I promise you. So Ignite Public are super professional. They really know what they are doing. We started off, we invited all of our members to be a part of the program, but handpicked 4 housing companies to join. They were of varied size, placed across the country, from 8,000 to 25,000 apartments in these companies. And I was quite specific about the criteria. I was really looking for entrepreneurs with mandate, resources, budget to pull off a pilot in the middle of the budget year. So we really wanted to make this happen. And what happened? Well, so far we have 3 pilots. Nagoon came about, I mean, it's a real need. The decision making was sped up by Corona, making a 3D preview of renovation options for tenants. So they could try it out in a virtual apartment. As far as I know, it's a one-off, but let's see how that continues. So when it comes to Parametric, it was actually the initiative that did the collaboration here. Housing companies are close to their tenants. They have a day-to-day relation many times, but they have very little data on their needs and views. So the initiative wanted to start to work with semantic analysis and did an insights report together with Parametric. And this is actually a start of what I would say is a digitalization journey, moving from customer satisfaction index once a year, which all the public housing companies do, to a continuous input from tenants, which can then lead to continuous proactive improvements. The third pilot is with Vajer and the housing company Mimer. It's a 3D visualization of complex building information, and how can you make use of this building information, usually called the BIM model, in your everyday operations. And here we really see how the maturity of the company, the housing company, matters on the pilot, because we are already on the second round discussing a new pilot, which the initiative will also be a part of, that where Mimer is connecting 4 different development projects within data standards, working with target groups, connecting that to 3D visualization. And what we can see here is that both Parametric and Vajer, all the housing companies involved in the matching process, are really interested in these 2 companies. So we did have a match on shared needs. Now we have to do some work on shared pilots, but I'm sure we're going to get there. So what have we learned so far? A lot, I would say. Here are some examples. I mean, this is really not rocket science. What we do, we can read about this in contemporary research, but we, the initiative and the companies we work with, we really need this experience to shoot off and gain more speed in our innovation work. I mean, ultimately, we want to make the whole ecosystem work together. So we found that participants learn more about their own company in the process, their own organizations, and they got new ideas. When it comes to bringing the right people to the table, I was really impressed by the housing company's in-house pitch efforts. But that actually means that you do a second screening, not only at the matching event, but at the latter meeting. And the colleagues are not always prepared for, here's the startup that I might want to work with within 3 months. So next time round, we'll put some effort into trying to draw in the domain experts in the matching events from the start. I mean, slowly we want to draw in the whole organization. We want them to come and ask, hey, what's new? Who can we meet? Not only the development department or the key entrepreneurs. A really challenging question is, of course, the procurement processes. Should we do pilot first or procurement first? So we worked extra together with Ignite on this issue. And one finding there is that it's really important to define why the pilot is done. Might sound obvious, but you need that information. Are we just here to learn something? Or do we see that we want to implement something, a similar service or technology in the near future? So we need to have ideas about that to be able to decide on whether to incorporate pilots as part of the procurement process. This is a way to go, and we're learning a lot of exciting stuff about how to do that. And of course, for the initiative, being the double intermediary together with Ignite, we've learned a lot how to develop our processes and tools, how to better prep and motivate the companies that are participating, and develop our scale-up tools, which are needed so you move on the whole way. we will definitely do this one more time. It feels like we only just started. And the next time round, we want to put in, try some more pre-scaling tools. And we also are looking into doing an open tech screening. So how open are the services or the startups? With that, I want to say a huge thank you to Marit and her colleagues at Ignite, and of course to the housing companies that we work with, Mimer, Huge, HFAB, and MKB. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Vanessa. And Vanessa will also participate in the panel discussion this afternoon at 5 Central European time about best practices in startup collaboration, a corporate perspective. So if you want to see more of Vanessa, you should go there and listen. It's going to be great.
So the next speaker here is one of our first pioneers in the Ignite Public project. When we started this, Järfälla Municipality, which is just adjacent to Stockholm, was one of the first to join us. And we're really happy to have Jenny Ångman here, who was the lead from Järfälla Municipality. And Jenny has a really strong focus on sustainability and has also been a really important sounding board for us in developing the project and taking us to where we are today. So we are really happy to have you with us today, Jenny. And Jenny will talk about the innovation from the perspective of a municipality. Please, Jenny, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Karin. Hi, as Karin said, my name is Jenny Ångman, and I'm really happy to be here, and I hope that we can meet for real in the future, and that the future will come very soon. I work as a director of innovations in Järfälla Municipality, and also as a CEO at a company called breakout Science, partly owned by the municipality of Järfälla. And I'm here to tell you about the work with innovations in Järfälla Municipality. And I'm going to give you a few examples of how we work to identify new solutions to streamline our processes. And now I'm going to try to change my picture. Yes. So first I want to give you a picture of where Järfälla Municipality is located. You can find us in the northern west part of Stockholm. So, and we are a municipality with 80,000 inhabitants, and we will be many more in the next 15 years, maybe about 120,000 inhabitants. So, for example, in Barkarby and Bengtsson, we are building a completely new city and a new metro station, which will open in 2026. So at the same time as we are a really expansive municipality, it's of course also important to save the beautiful and useful green areas. Well, now we're going to speak about innovation in Järfälla. And the top management in Järfälla Municipality are now convinced about the importance of innovation based on the demographic changes that are taking place in our society. So we need to streamline, innovate, and digitalize our processes. And in our organization, it looks very different. You have been speaking about that is public sector fast or slow, or where are we? And it looks very different in different administration parts in our organization. And in our organization, it's the social administration that is in the very front with their work with these issues. And also they have a really good structure of their work to capture the innovative issues. And they also work a lot with welfare technology. Since this way of working is not yet defined in the whole organization, we now have begun a journey to bring the entire organization with us. So we have started the work both from the employee perspective, but also from the management perspective. And let's go to an example from the employee perspective. This year, we arranged an innovation competition where all our employees had the opportunity to submit innovation ideas. And we received 34 competition proposals, of which 16 came from the social administration that has this structured work. So I'm not surprised about that. The proposal that won the competition was the map shop, or kartbutik in Swedish. It actually became a reality the other week. So I'm so happy about that. And what is the map shop? Well, the residents can now enter a key system on the municipality's website and make a map that they want and buy it by themselves. So this saves a lot of time for our employees and make the whole process much easier for the citizens as well. And this is a typical example of how we want it to work in our organization. We want more employees to come forward and tell us about the solutions and the ideas they see in front of them to solve their particular process or work or their challenges. And now an example from the management perspective. It's really important to have the right culture in the organization and also a clear leadership to success with innovation. I think that in order to bring about a culture change where innovation and development are rewarded more, all leaders need to be involved. So we have started with all the administrative directors who soon have set the future framework for the innovation work in our organization. In that work, they're going to agree on the development of organization, governance, financing, and working methods. And our first way to give the message to the organization is that we arrange a leadership day with the theme innovation. And during this day, we, all the leaders in Järfälla, we were listening to Leif Denti, a professor of innovative leadership, and he gave us a lot of tips and tricks how to work with innovation. And we also looked at movies from our own organization about innovative initiatives. For example, modern mobility in Barkarbystaden and artificial intelligence in water sewage systems. So this leadership day is one way to make culture change. The top management sent a message to all the leaders in the organization. We want you and your groups to work with innovation to develop our organization. And another tool that we have also started to work with is innovation procurement, a tool where we identify our needs and in the next steps reach out to other organizations and companies to co-create for magical solutions. One way is to procure the needs for products and describe it, and then collaborate with the supplier to find the right solutions. We have also participated in Ignite Public, where we met many interesting startups, which may have solutions for the needs we have identified. Among other things, we found a startup with a digital solution for citizen dialogue. It was Parlamentic. And we also met a company, a local life at Ignite Public matching event, which we began a collaboration on digital infrastructure in Barkarbystaden. There we have together begun work to start up a digital infrastructure around sharing economy. And also we are investigating the possibility of working together with a local energy company and property owners to together reduce the plastic content in the residual waste to create conditions for the more sustainable district heating that emits a smaller share of fossil carbon dioxide. So this local life startup was a matching with the company Barkarby Science that I'm CEO in. So the conclusion is that innovation procurement is an interesting way of working with innovation to find new solutions and startups to boost innovations in our organization. We have also signed up to work with Ignite Public the next year, and I hope that our social administration will be a part of that work. So what are the keys that I see to success with innovation? Top management, they have to show that they want to create change and take the lead. And we need open dialogues and open culture. It have to be positive to try something new, and you have to have the budget and clear goals, and you have to have a structure with these working methods, and collaboration is of course really important. So with those words, I will say thank you for listening to me, and thank you that I'm here.
Thank you, Jenny, for that. This session would not be complete without a startup, given their input and perspective. So today we have Cecilia Wirsén with us from Nagoon. Nagoon is a R&D startup founded in Stockholm, in Sweden, in 2015. 2 years later, they were selected as one of the Nordic countries' 50 most promising startups. They have participated in the Nordic House of Innovation for Startups in Palo Alto and in the Absolute Pernod Ricard Accelerator Living Lab. Cecilia, tell us more about your experience working with the public sector and Ignite.
Thank you, Marit. You hear me and you see everything?
Yes.
Good. So we are a deep tech startup. So I just want to point out that we do not do apps. We do kind of the things behind the apps, behind the web and stuff. So it's really techy, and I'm not going to go into what we do because it could be complicated. But as you will see, we can enable a lot of stuff. We enable interactions outdoors and indoors. And it was really nice to see, Vanessa, when you showed our name there. We actually did that collaboration with Hugo. And yes, we're open for scaling. It was a very simple mission for us. So that would be fun to continue that one. And so here I'm going to talk about our perspective. And I can just sum up that what you were saying in the beginning, Karin, I would just round it up and say, I agree. I think what you're doing, what Ignite is doing, it has really set up a totally new arena for us as a startup. And our reality is that we have an innovation and we want to test it. So we need customers. We don't have a solution. We don't have a product. When I started 2 years ago with this, that was an issue sometimes to explain that we didn't have anything to sell, especially to the public sector. They expected something to be ready. And then, of course, we need money. We haven't talked a lot about money in this session. Jenny mentioned it, that we need a budget. And of course, our goal as a startup is to make money, is to create a business out of it. And for us, there are several ways. We can do an application and to make a research project with partners. We can have a paid pilot and we can have a non-paid pilot. I would argue for that is not really a good option, the third one. But sometimes there are no money at all. And we have chosen the last couple of years to do the research way. We have had several projects ready already, but we had 2 EU funded ongoing and 4 nationally funded projects ongoing. And we do these projects together with all the other partners that you see here. And I'm going to highlight Finch-Westin, the public sector, and Uppsala kommun. Finch-Westin, we just finished a citizen engagement project. And there were actually 2 ministers visiting there in September, Amanda Lind and Åsa Lindhagen. And of course, it was fun for us to show our solution, the technology, but I think it was very nice for Nacka kommun and for Finch-Westin Folkets Hus to show that they had innovation, that they were in the front line. And then Uppsala, we just recently got funded from Vinnova to make a corona solution. I will talk a little bit more about that. So for us as a startup, there are some advantages as we see it if I compare to collaborating with the private sector. When we approach public sector, it's so obvious that you really have needs and you know people, and they are acute needs, there are crucial needs, which has to be solved, which is really, really good for us. And many of you are now innovation driven. You have independent departments, but even if I start communicating with the culture department, you have internal communication with the IT and with innovation, for example, or any other, which is really good. So the solution can be used broadly in the municipality. And of course, the scale, we talked about the scale. A problem in one municipality often shows that, you know, there's a business for us to make for perhaps the whole Sweden. And what we have also discovered that people in the municipalities are super, super competent. You're really good at what you're working with, experts. So I'm going to show here what we would see like an ideal piloting process. And the first meeting that Ignite sets up is one of the most important things for us. As Karin said in the beginning, it's very hard for us to get this first meeting and to know who to talk to. And in this meeting, we present our ideas, and then in the follow-up meeting, the municipality gets back and take our ideas and formulate some kind of well-defined problem. And for us, it's important that it's possible to test it fast and easy to verify. And we, for us at least, we want to have small budgets so we get under the procurement limits. And the next step, to have a workshop to put up the timeline and to get all the people involved, etc. And then we start the testings, and that's where we are in lead, but we need always to have a contact person at the municipality, but that process is mostly run by us. And then we're having this prototype ready, and this has to be evaluated both by municipality and us. And then, of course, the reports. And this is an important thing, that municipality needs to have an internal report of the results to show what they have done across sectors. So it will be possible to scale and really to apply it. And we need external reports so we can show to others what we're actually doing, that we have actually done something. And the implementation and scaling, and for us, that means business development and go-to-market. And all this should be done in the timeline of 3 to 4 months. That's ideal. And why that is ideal is because if we're doing a two years project, we're out of business. We don't have any money. We don't survive for 2 years. So we have to work this really, really super fast. So I think in this scheme, those are the two most important things, the first meeting and then the speed. So our dream scenario is when the municipality goal to solve a real problem, and our goal to have a fast pilot which we can use to create a business. And we find that that's a fit. And that's what we recently found together with Uppsala. As I said, we got funded from Vinnova, and it's a Corona project. We're doing it together also with Bosch, IBM, and KTH. And as we see it, it's going to be like a win-win-win solution. It's going to be good for the citizens. It's going to help social distancing in public venues. And a win for the municipality to provide safe venues, and win for us if we can scale and make a business out of it, of course. So that's what I was running through. And if you have questions, I think this is really interesting to talk about, and I really appreciated all the talks that you have had before me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cecilia, for representing the entire startup community. You got a question for, let me see, we've got a question in the chat now. So let me see, question to Cecilia. When choosing the R&D and financing route, have you experienced problems with getting to procurement and implementation due to unfair competitive advantage?
Well, so far we haven't come to that stage. So we'll have to see. But we prefer to keep, because we have a SaaS solution, a software as a service solution, so we can provide it hopefully below the procurement limits, because it's going to be like a monthly subscription payment, our solution. But that depends, of course, what you offer as a product.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much, Cecilia. We also have a question coming in from the Hopin group, and it's from Stina, and she says, you say that Ignite Public is fast rather than slow. Do you think it's general, or are there faster municipalities than others? For example, my impression is that Umeå is very open-minded, but is that the fact also in Leksand and, let's say, Munkfors? And I think we've all touched a little bit on the speed, and I think this question came in before you were also talking, Jenny. And I think you mentioned that there are slower parts and quicker parts of the municipalities. And I think the reason it is quick is because we start in needs that are really real and people need them to be fixed. So when you do that, it's everyone wants a solution, and it can go really quick as long as you have, like a couple of you said, the buy-in from the management to actually add some funding for pilots, and a real need, not just a nice to have, but something that we are really in need of to be able to proceed. So I hope that answers your question, Stina.
I think I can just add very briefly to that is also that, of course, the municipalities and the public organizations that we have worked with have done a lot of work beforehand. Yes. So that adds to the speed that we have seen. I think that they have sort of been ready and on their toes to do this.
Yeah, the entire mobilize step in the process before we even get to the needs assessment and the matching. So, yes. Do we have any other questions? You can write them in the chat or speak up. Okay, well, for one, it makes me really happy to listen to all of you today. And sometimes you need days like this to see the progress and to see that, wow, we have really achieved a lot, all of us together from our different perspectives to take us here today. And yeah, Karin, do you want to wrap it up?
I can just add to that, and thanks to all the participants who've listened in, and to all our speakers. I think you've all added such great perspectives into this, and that really show that this is a team effort that we are doing, and that we're working together for both the public sector and the startups to move ahead. And as we said in the beginning, this is the third time we have Sweden or Ignite Sweden Day, and this time we took it internationally. Let's see where we are next year together. That would be fun.
Yes.
I think one of the things that Cecilia mentioned there, the importance of the first meeting, that you actually perform there and are prepared. So all of the work that Ignat's doing beforehand, and the organizations are doing, and the startup is doing before the meeting, because that will be where you are starting. The other thing that you also can take with you from Cecilia's presentation is that pilots doesn't get too big, not 2 years and 2 million Swedish kronor, because then they will not maybe able to deliver on it because they are so small. So small pieces that you can deliver fairly quickly, because that is the strong side of the startups. They are quick and agile.
Can I answer?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yes, I think that is really spot on, because we can't fight the big dragons. That's why we try to keep below the procurement, for example, in the pilot phase, and to keep it really small and narrow and problem focused, and that the easy to verify is also very important to consider. And I want to just also send an extra thanks to Ignite on why you are special. If I compare to the accelerators that we participated in and the hackathons and those such of things as a startup, what you provide is this meeting. You're providing actual customers. And that's not the case for accelerators and stuff. Those are super fun. You learn a lot, but it might be, not really customer driven. So you're doing a super good job for us startups.
Thank you, Cecilia.
I think one of the things why it's so successful might be that many of the organizations that are working in, and maybe also particularly with the public organization, they are so close to the need and the problems. So that is that you have if you're getting passing the first meeting, it's fairly easy to get to the pilot compared to some of the private organizations that are in that sense slower. So you need to have a very close relation with that problem owner.
Mm.
And that is what Karin and Fredrik and Stina and Marit is good at, finding those needs and the persons that should be on the meeting.
I'd like to also underline, Cecilia, great talk. Thank you so much. What you said, that the pilot should be easy to verify, because when it comes to scaling, sooner or later, you need to talk to C-level management and build that case. And I think that's a good perspective for startups to have with them when collaborating with public housing companies or other public companies, that how can we build this case so that you have something for management to make a decision on. So the verification is important.
Yes, I can just add that was in our project in Finch-Westin. It was it ended because the budget ended, but also internally they didn't really see the value. They were not having the staff to see the value of it. But then when these ministers came and they could show it, and they discovered, oh my God, and all the Nacka municipality could see that was something fun and good. Then again, it had a new value. So
Yes.
It could be problematic.
Never underestimate public appearance to underline value. I mean, that PR is an important part of the process, definitely.
Yes.
I think that could be good closing words for us. I think we're about to be thrown out of this meeting, but thank you all so much. I wish we could have met together physically, then we would have continued over coffee, but let's hope that we can do that. Stay in the Hoopin platform and look into the rest of the program that we have today and tomorrow. So thank you all so much for joining us this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much. Tack så mycket.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Tack, det var